Most of you are iChange members. For those of you that aren't, iChange is an unbelievable community of individuals who are working together to improve their health. It's a social network built exclusively for Herbalife distributors and their clients, and it's a place where those distributors can coach, manage, and encourage those people to better health, fitness, and nutrition. We've had an amazing couple of months at iChange. We've had tens of thousands sign up and join our community, and every day we're getting just incredible success stories. We have people losing 50 pounds, 100 pounds. We just had somebody who ran her first marathon, and these people are telling us it's because they're getting the support and coaching they need from their distributors. They're getting this unbelievable amount of encouragement from the iChange community, and of course they're using their Herbalife product as part of this balanced approach. So one thing that the people of the iChange community have been telling us is that we want more information. We want to understand how we and how our clients can get more fit and get healthier. And in response to that, we started this speaker series. And we're so lucky at Herbalife to have access to world experts on health, nutrition, and fitness. And this month, we have Dr. John HEISS. Many of you know Dr. John. He's the brainchild and the face for the Herbalife 24 product line. And he's really a unique guy when it comes to talking about health and fitness. John has a PhD from UCLA in
biological chemistry.
And you're also a competitive cyclist, a Category 2 cyclist, and often seen biking the hills of Malibu with our CEO, Michael Johnson. So with that, operator, let me extend a warm welcome to Dr. John, and if you could open the lines just for a moment. Let's hear those of you on the phone give John a welcome as well. Operator, you can go ahead and mute the line. Now, before I pass it over to John, we're going to run this like a radio show. So John is going to talk for a few minutes, and you'll then have the opportunity to ask him questions. If you'd like to ask him a question, all you need to do is dial *1 on your touch-tone phone, and then you'll be in our question queue. And once John's done, we'll take your questions in the order we receive them. Okay? So John, let me pass it over to you.
Sounds good. Hey, everybody. So thanks again for the warm welcome. At our end, it sounded like a lot of static and screaming, but I'll take that as a compliment. But so we have the next hour. I'm going to talk about 15 minutes on really maximizing fat metabolism, or it's kind of a diet and exercise approach to enhance fat burning, which I know a lot of people that are looking to do weight loss, of course, this impacts them, but also someone who's more athletic that's looking to maybe get in shape for a triathlon or just lose a few extra pounds. This is perfect for them too. So I'll just go over some basic tips and explain to you how to maximize fat metabolism. So in doing some research and preparing for the talk, there's lots of different scans of people, and this one really struck me as quite impressive. There's two pictures. There's someone who's quite obese, overweight, and then there's a picture of a healthy individual. And you can see in the scan, if you have the internet up, that the person that's overweight has quite a high deposit of body fat. And there's really two different types of fat that I want to talk about in today's talk. There's one kind of fat, which is known as the visceral fat, and this is fat also known as abdominal fat. So it's around your belly, around your organs. And this is sort of deep inside. It's packed around your liver, around your intestines, around your heart. And this is really the worst kind of fat that you can have. There's also subcutaneous fat, which is really just skin fat. So if you have maybe the bingo arms, as some people refer them to, which is some fat on your triceps or fat on your legs, this fat actually, while is nice to look at, actually isn't nearly as bad for you as the abdominal fat. So I like to call this sort of the pretty fat, right? It's more cosmetic. So just keep in mind there's two kinds of fat. The bad fat around your organs and the fat that's okay around your skin. So one of the things that's become apparent in the medical literature is that there's people that are referred to as TOFI, or thin outside but fat inside. And so the point I want to make here is that truly being healthy is more than just being thin. So you could have individuals with the same BMI, or body mass index. So maybe you have 3 people that all have the same height and have the same weight, but there could be a big disparity among actual internal organ fat. For those of you that have access to the internet and are watching the slides, the person in figure A is a very healthy person who has just a little bit of subcutaneous or skin fat with virtually no organ fat. But to the other extreme, the person labeled C, for example, has the same BMI and the same weight as person A, but has a much higher content of organ fat. And so the point of today's talk is to address the issues of how to reduce that organ fat and to basically improve your health status. So in preparing for the talk, I tried to make a few slides to visually depict sort of how we burn fat and how fat is stored. So this slide might be sort of complicated for some of you, but there's the 2 pools of fat, the organ fat, the visceral fat, and the subcutaneous fat, which is the fat under your skin. Now imagine basically a piece of Velcro is the best analogy I can think of, and this is sort of, it comes together and sticks and it releases. And it's kind of an on and off reaction. So fat molecules are constantly being released and then reabsorbed by your body. This is a natural process. Now the visceral fat is particularly bad for you and particularly unhealthy because these fat molecules are directly injected into your liver. So it's basically injecting toxic molecules straight into your liver, which then your liver then processes these and sends bad hormones throughout the entire body, which is one of the major reasons why it's such a high risk factor for cardiovascular disease. The subcutaneous fat, on the other hand, when that Velcro is released and that fat molecule is freed, it can then be utilized by your muscle for energy. So both these fats are under constant flux or on-off rates. So what happens is by engaging in exercise, we enhance the off rate, meaning that we peel away the Velcro, and instead of it re-sticking and keeping us fat, it actually stays away, and our bodies can use it and burn it for energy. So this is basically the process of removing fat or reducing fat by basically fat oxidation or fat metabolism. So the whole point here is that just adding a little bit of exercise to your diet favors the off rate of fat, and it helps burn fat. So I just want you to think about when you're outside, maybe doing something active, or maybe when you're eating food, or maybe when you're resting, is picture this image of this Velcro, and if you can just do anything you can do, whether it's eat healthy or add a little bit of exercise to kind of peel away that Velcro and keep them separated, that's going to favor fat burning. So now in contrast, insulin, which is a hormone that's released in response to eating something with a lot of sugar, when you spike your blood sugar, has the opposite effect. This basically sticks that Velcro back together. So anytime you are craving that chocolate cake at maybe someone's birthday at the office, or you're craving some soda or something, or you're having lots of sugary foods, this is basically going to take any of that free fat that might be in your blood and basically stick it back on to both visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. And the significance here is that your muscles, instead of burning fat for energy, are going to burn carbohydrates. And this is, of course, the opposite of the effect that you want to do. So the take-home message I want everyone to remember is that blood sugar is the master regulator of fat metabolism. So if you can make good diet choices, such as Formula 1, which is low glycemic, and it has a balance of protein and carbohydrates that don't spike blood sugar, these kind of diet choices can help you favor fat burning instead of fat storage. So for those of you who have seen me on the road know that I love science graphs, and I couldn't resist but showing you guys yet another science graph. But this is from a report that was published this year in 2012. And this experiment looked at a group of individuals who were fed basically 2 different diets, a low-protein diet and a high-protein diet. And what they did is they said, we know people tend to overeat, so let's give them the overeating options, but let's make it more protein or low protein. And they monitored these individuals for 8 weeks. And what they looked at was lean body mass, or basically building muscle and removing fat. So it turns out, in the people that had a low-protein diet, they actually lost lean body mass, okay, so they gained fat. But those are the people that ate high-protein diets actually gained lean muscle mass. And this is without exercising. So the point is that having a high-protein diet favors lean muscle mass and also enhances some fat-burning factors. So if you have a choice and you have a decision between that cupcake and maybe some yogurt and maybe some granola or a Formula One shake, for example, or of course my favorite, Rebuild Strength, I would go that option every route since you're getting a good high source of protein. So the next thing I want to talk about is what I've termed for this talk the 80-20 rule of fat loss. And so this is, the 80-20 rule is pretty simple, and I think a lot of people might be familiar with 80-20 rules in life, which is maybe 20% of the work, you can get 80% of the result. But the point is here is diet without exercise. Let's say you lose 10 kilos of weight, about 20 pounds. 8 kilos would be muscle, and only 2 kilos would be fat. So if you just starve yourself and don't eat calories and don't eat good quality protein and don't exercise, you're only going to burn 2 kilos of fat. So you might lose weight, but you've really lost muscle. And this is basically the perfect recipe for that thin outside, fat inside image that we talked about. That person probably just did calorie restriction, didn't work out, and so they might have looked skinny, but in fact they were really fat inside, which is the worst kind of fat for your health. So you can actually flip this the other way around, in that having a healthy diet with just a little bit of exercise means when you lose 10 kilos, only 2 kilos of that will be muscle, but 8 kilos of that will be fat. And this is a much more healthy option. And you don't need to do massive exercise, but just a few minutes a day even can help shift this balance from losing mostly muscle to mostly fat. Now the other important thing I really want to emphasize with that thin outside, fat inside is that it turns out that the inside fat goes on easy and comes off easier. So I know most people, when they exercise or they want to eat healthy, so they look good in a mirror. But you have to remember that for the first maybe several months of dieting and exercising, most of the impact of that work is going to be done inside your body, and so you won't even see the results of it. So you might still have maybe some flabby arms, maybe a little bit of fat in your legs, but don't worry about it. You're doing wonders for your body inside, more than you can even realize. So in terms of how to exercise to burn the most fat, since we've talked mostly about diet so far, is that I know a lot of people get caught up on, okay, what type of exercise burns the most fat? There's been quite a bit of research into this. Now, you can look at it two different ways. You could say, well, how much fat is burned during my exercise? But the better way to look at it is, what's the 24-hour fat-burning picture look like? I call this the afterburn, because if you burn a few hundred calories during a workout, you're actually burning maybe 3 times that from elevating your metabolism throughout the entire day. So this is the 24-hour fat-burning really window. So at rest, or at very easy levels of exercise, our bodies actually almost burn 90% of their energy from fat. So this would be that 25% VO2 max, which would be maybe a brisk walk. You're burning mostly fat, but you're not burning very much fat. Now, as you start to increase the exercise intensity to somewhere about 65% VO2 max, which would be sort of an easy jog for some people or an easy bike ride, you're burning about 50% of the energy as fat, but you're actually burning more fat than the easy jog. So this is traditionally thought of as the fat-burning zone or fat-burning effort for activity. So if you were to exercise at a talking pace where you could have a conversation with someone, this is going to maximize fat burning during exercise. Now, the more recent literature has said, well, as you increase intensity to, say, let's say doing something like a really intense workout like a P90X or an Insanity, or doing CrossFit or really sprinting hard, you're actually burning essentially very, very low fat, almost zero fat during that activity. But however, that activity is so intense that it actually maximizes fat burning over the next 24 hours, meaning you're going to get better benefits from a shorter amount of workout time. So this slide, for those of you that are on the computer, looks somewhat complicated, but I wanted to convey that most of the fat burning occurs during your night sleeping session. Okay? So diet recommendations for me would be to reduce the carbohydrates you intake during the day and keep them low at night. So what I show here is sort of when you turn fat burning on and you turn fat storage on. So when you're eating, really any meal sort of shuts down fat metabolism. And so this is, I call it insulin-stimulated fat formation. So if you have breakfast, you're actually stopping fat metabolism, but that's okay because we need to give our bodies energy. And so my recommendation for breakfast is to eat carbohydrates and proteins together with some fat. So for me, this looks like typically a Formula One shake made with maybe milk, PDM. I add some walnuts or flax seeds. So I'm getting a really good balance of carbs, proteins, and fats. Now after breakfast, maybe around 10 o'clock in the morning, some of us start to feel hungry. And that's a little bit of a sensation of that we're burning fat. Our blood sugar is coming down, and we're actually burning fat. But it's only a small amount. Then we eat lunch, and then after lunch at 3 o'clock, we start to burn more fat. And then we often eat dinner. And then when we go to bed, that's where most of the fat burning occurs. Now what I want to direct your attention to, if you're looking at the graph, is that the blue segments of the feeding curves represent carbohydrates. So at dinner, I really recommend eating very few carbohydrates and actually increasing fat content during dinner. So it's often a misconception that you need to remove fat from your diet to burn fat. What happens is if you remove fat, your body kind of hoards or keeps any fat it can get in. So I actually like to increase fat and protein for dinner and reduce carbohydrates at dinner, and this is going to help maximize fat burning that occurs during at night. So I put on here, I was making this PowerPoint last night, and so I typed up what I ate for dinner last night, and I ate about 150 gram salmon fillet, so it's maybe a little more than a quarter of a pound, about a third of a pound of salmon. I sauteed some kale and some spinach together, and I added some walnuts and cranberries to that, so I added some healthy fats in there and some kale. And feel free to definitely use some olive oil, don't be scared of the fat. And then I had a little bit of lentils in there as well, and sometimes I'll add yams. So the lentils, I'm getting a little bit of carbs, but I'm getting a lot of fiber and some proteins from the lentils. So the question is, what kind of exercise do I need to do? And we talked a little bit about the different intensities. So the moderate intensity burns the most fat during exercise, whereas the really intense work, the high intensity intervals, burn a lot of fat later on during the day. So for most people, I really recommend the bare minimum is what I call 10 unit hours per week. Okay, so what I've done is prepare this little table, and it basically lists your activity, and then the score, and then how many hours you need to achieve 10 units. So a walk, I give about 3 units per hour. So if you walk for 1 hour, you get 3 points. In order to get 10 points, you'd have to walk about 3.5 hours during the week. So that's quite a lot of walking. Now, if you increase the intensity with an easy bike ride or an easy jog, that 3.5 hours quickly gets cut down to about 2 hours to 1.5 hours. For those of you that might be jogging more intensely, that's about a level 9. And so you only need to do that for about an hour a week to have a measurable effect on fat burning. Now, I would really like most people to do about 30 unit hours per week, but 10 is about the bare minimum to really start to see an effect of turning over fat, especially that visceral, that bad organ fat. Just to put this in perspective, pro cyclists, for example, let's say they're cycling at about level 9, and the scale is about a 1 to 20, so it's kind of in the middle, mostly easy rides, but they might ride 25 hours a week. So they're doing about 225 units per week versus someone that might be walking, getting 10 hours a week. When I was preparing for Leadville, which is the 100-mile mountain bike race in Colorado, I was riding about 12 hours a week. So I was doing about 100 to 115 units per week of physical activity as many months leading up to the race. So you can see, as you start to add intensity and time, those units go up pretty quickly. So I encourage all of you maybe to make notes of this table and just track your units for a week or two and see how many you can do. But really 10 is the bare minimum. I'd like to see everybody doing about 30 to 35. So the second kind of activity would be the high-intensity interval training, also known as Tabatas. Some people might be familiar with the term Tabatas, and that's the name of the research group that sort of pioneered this technique. This technique involves a 30-second all-out maximal effort, whether that's a run or a sprint on a bike, followed by a 2-minute rest period, which is basically doing nothing or an easy walk. And then you repeat this about 6 to 8 times. So if you do 6 repeats of 30 seconds on, you're actually only working out for about 3 minutes. If you did 8 repetitions, it's only about 4 minutes of actual on activity. But remember, it's 4 minutes all out, 100% intensity. It turns out that running, cycling, jumping rope are great ways to do high-intensity interval training, and these really maximize fat burning, especially later on during the day. But for most people, the trick is you have to build up to this. If you haven't worked out in a while, you can't just go out and do 8 all-out sprints for 30 seconds. So I would stick with basic walking, jogging, and then after a few months, you can start building the intensity and working up to this. But this is sort of an advanced move. Okay, so I just have a few summary points. And the 3 key things to remember for fat burning are exercise, low glycemic, and protein. So exercise, really any exercise increases fat metabolism about 10% above your resting rate. Avoid foods that spike insulin, so look for low glycemic foods. A little trivia, but Formula 1 is actually low glycemic. But eating things like lentils instead of pasta at night can go a long way. Protein. Make sure you're getting adequate protein in, about 1.5 to 2 grams per kilo, or about 1 gram per pound body weight. And this will, again, help maximize lean muscle mass and reduce some of the fat. So, Stu, I think that's what I have for today.
John, terrific.
I don't know if we have any questions that have queued up.
So guys, here's what you do. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. I actually have some questions. If you'd like to ask a question, use your phone, dial *1, and we'll get you in our queue here. I see that we have a number that have come through right away, and we'll go ahead and take them one by one. So let's see if we can get this first one to work here.
It is like a radio show.
Okay, we should have a caller live. We don't have a name. Do we have somebody on the line? Looks like the name didn't come through. So let's go to the next one, John. It's another John. John Scobran. We know you, John.
Well, hello, Professor. How are you?
Very well. Very good to hear your voice. Thanks for calling in.
I am really enjoying this. This is fantastic. The question I have, Doctor, I have lost almost 150 pounds now. I was a pretty big boy. And I got a little bit to go, but the poundage is not going down, but I'm still doing the things that I'm doing. Am I correct in assuming that the nutrients and the protein and everything are going to maybe healing my skin, because my skin's not sagging, none of that stuff's going on, but I'm just not losing the poundage? Is there an explanation for that?
There could be a couple of things. People like you that lose a lot of weight, maybe quickly, they tend to lose a lot very fast, and of course that rate starts to slow down. But I don't want you to lose hope. You're still doing a lot of good for that internal visceral fat that I was talking about. At this point, since you've lost a tremendous amount of weight, which is absolutely unbelievable, fantastic, would be maybe just try adding a little more exercise, and that's going to continue to boost the metabolism. And you might feel a little more hungry, but that's okay. If you need an extra scoop in the shake, no problem. But I think now if you start to add a little bit of exercise, you're going to continue that weight loss, and I think you're going to see some good success from that.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, John. Next up, we have Lori Baker. Lori, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hey, John, how are you? You came out to Rhode Island and did our fit camp for us.
Oh, nice. So I saw you just a few weeks ago. Well, good to hear you again virtually here.
Yeah, I think this is great. I just was on Facebook and I saw a post saying that it was on, and I looked at my clock and it was like right now, so I got on. Are these going to be recorded or anything like that? This is really good information.
Yeah, Lori, we're recording all of these, and we will post them back up onto iChange and very likely back up on the Facebook page.
Oh, perfect.
I knew you couldn't get enough of my graphs from, in Rhode Island. So
hey, I'm a systems analyst. I love graphs.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for doing these.
Did you have any other questions, Lori?
No, I thought that first question was great. A lot of times my clients will, they'll lose an initial amount of weight, and they may be doing some exercise, but then it'll start to slow down. And I don't know whether I should kick up their protein or, have them do something a little bit more intense with their exercise.
Lori, that brings up a good point that I'd like to make to everybody, is that when people kind of stop eating as much carbohydrates and they eat more protein, which is a great thing, they often lose about 6 pounds right away. And that's because they've reduced some of that glycogen store in their body, which is the body's way to store carbohydrate. But carbohydrate has about 4 times the amount of water weight associated for every pound of actual carbs. So if you reduce about 400 grams of carbs, you're actually reducing about 5 pounds of total body weight. So you'll see, I think, a lot of times people lose 6 pounds in a week, and then it plateaus. So after that, that's when you need to really start doing more exercise to metabolize the fat and not spike the blood sugar.
Okay, so they really do need to increase their exercise as they start to slow down with the weight loss.
Yeah, it's the number one way. And I mean, I like to say, look, 1 minute a day is better than no minutes, and 10 minutes is better than 1 minute. So if you can just wake up in the morning and do 15 body weight squats and a couple sit-ups, I mean, that takes all of 2 minutes. And that's all of a sudden you just want to shift that balance. And remember about that Velcro. If you can just have that Velcro separated for just a little bit more time, you're really going to enhance that fat burning.
That's interesting. So, I mean, people could really get started then just with a few minutes a day on this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I wake up in the morning, I do 30 sit-ups, and it's that easy, and you hop in the shower. I think a lot of people get so caught up in, I got to go to the gym, it takes an hour, I got to get a good workout in. Just try something basic to get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Great advice. All right. Thanks, Lori. Next, we're going to Byron Wade. Byron, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Byron, welcome to the show. What's your question?
Is there any particular exercise that you would recommend for people that need to burn more belly fat?
It appears as though the fat burning sort of occurs all over your body. What happens is all the fat in your belly or in your legs or arms, that stuff just slowly gets released into the bloodstream and goes to your muscle. So the days of doing, just sit-ups to burn belly fat doesn't really work so much. You could ride a bike, and that's going to burn belly fat just as effectively as leg fat. So again, I think the point is just be exercise, and what happens is it's first going to come out of your abdomen, and then it's going to start to come from skin everywhere. And of course, there's some genetic composition of people store fat in different places, and women tend to store more fat around their hips. It's more padding, and men in their abdomen. So there is some hormonal and genetic and gender contributions. But again, the point is be active. It's going to come off slowly inside, so you won't see it at first. But after a while, you'll start to notice it on the outside.
Excellent. And I'm down 115 pounds already.
Oh,
all right.
That's fantastic. Such a great story. Thanks for sharing.
All right. Hey, one thought that comes up. I mean, you talked about kind of consuming protein and the effect on lean muscle mass in the presentation. I mean, you're talking about Herbalife 24 every day. I mean, how should those of us that maybe aren't extreme athletes, that aren't doing Leadville, think about how we should be using Herbalife 24 as part of our routine, or maybe even other Herbalife products?
Well, I mean, look, so again, if you shoot for the 1 gram per pound, which is the upper end, but let's say if someone weighs 150 pounds, they want to get at least 100 to 120 grams in. So that's basically 4 meals, about 30 grams of protein each. So you start your day with a Formula 1 shake, maybe add some PDM, some milk, you're starting to get a good amount of protein. If you can't do it with milk and you have water, you can have a snack, afternoon snack, that has some protein. For those of you that aren't familiar with Formula One sport, it's very similar to Formula One, but Formula One Classic soy-based protein, soy isolate. It's good for your heart. We've got the allergen-free, which is the rice, the pea, the sesame protein, and now we have the milk protein-based Formula One sport, which is whey and casein. Mm-hmm. They're all really similar, so I use them almost interchangeably. In fact, I often mix Formula One sport and the Formula One cookies and cream together on a daily basis. I love the taste. You can also use the Rebuild Strength product. It's got 24 grams of milk protein per serving, so this is a great protein supplement that I think I encourage everyone to try to use in their diet, whether they're an athlete or not.
So you don't need to be a professional weightlifter to be using the Rebuild Strength?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, my mom, she's 115 pounds. She uses it every day. She certainly doesn't have big muscles, so.
Well, I wasn't blessed with big muscles either, so that's actually helpful for me.
Well, you're a runner, Stu. So.
All right, next up, Nancy Hitt. Are you on the line, Nancy?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Nancy.
My question is, if you work out in the morning first thing, should you have your Formula One shake first and then work out, or will it burn more fat if you work out and then have your shake afterwards?
Nancy, great question, very astute question, I must say. Subject of a lot of controversy in the literature. So what I do, I'll tell you personal experience, and I'll tell you sort of what the literature says. You're right. If you wake up and you're going to do an exercise and you don't have much time, I would actually skip the Formula One and go straight into your exercise and have a really big shake afterwards. So maybe it's your normal Formula One, but maybe do 1.5 times what you normally do. So make a big recovery shake. That could be 24 or Formula One in your case. It turns out that if you eat carbohydrate during exercise, okay, you actually reduce the fat burning during exercise. But you have to remember is that if you only look at that workout window, but most of the fat burning occurs at night and later on during the day, so it actually has way less of an impact than we think it does. So today, I went out, I rode my bike 2.5 hours. I didn't eat anything before the ride. I drank water for about the first hour and a half, and then the last hour of my bike, I drank some Rebuild Endurance. So I did kind of a fasting ride to start. I had Rebuild Endurance for the second half of the ride. I came home and made a massive recovery shake with frozen fruit and walnuts and Rebuild Strength and Rebuild Endurance together, and it was a great, recovery shake. So,
if you do it while you're still fasting, that's going to kind of dip into the fat reserves a little bit more to make your body start breaking those down for the energy?
Yeah, so it does, but again, the amount of fat you burn during exercise is so minuscule compared to the fat you're burning later on during the day and at night from working out, that whether you have carbohydrates or not has a really minimal effect on the total day's worth of fat burning.
John, let me ask you, is that part of the feeling we get? So if I run in the morning, I notice an energy difference all day long. Is that one of the effects of my metabolism running at a higher rate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you start exercising, you're going to feel hungrier, right? Mm-hmm. All your body's metabolism is upregulated. You're burning fat later in the day. You're going to be more hungry during the day. So that's one of the nice things about working out in the morning is that it gets the metabolism going all day long. Now, of course, at night, when people work out at night, they go home, they have a modest meal. Their metabolism is really elevated while they're sleeping, so they burn a lot of fat at night.
I see. So, Nancy, did that answer your question?
Yes, I do have one other question. I do quite a bit of exercise, anywhere an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. It's generally walking at a moderate pace. My weight loss has kind of plateaued. I'm wondering if I need to, should it just be that I increase the intensity then to get my weight loss going again?
Yeah, so I think you're right on with that. So if you remember that table I had, the walking, I gave a score of 3 to, if you're doing about 2.5 to 3 hours a week, you're at about 10 points a week. I think, if you can try to maybe up it to 15 or 20, so if you kind of maybe do 5 minutes walking and maybe briskly walk or kind of an easy jog for 2 minutes and kind of alternate, that'll start increasing the intensity a little bit, and it'll start to really rev up some more of the fat burning. So I think that'd be the best thing for you since you've got a pretty good base already, which is great.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, you're welcome.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. So next we have, it's like Frank Fisher. Oops, excuse me for a second. Give me a moment, Frank. Okay, Frank, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Hey, Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
My question is about exercise restrictions. I have a cardiomyopathy and a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and I can't do, I can't have my heart rate up very high. It's very painful. My doctor doesn't want it up high. So what types of exercises can I do? Can I get that six-pack look with just products and very slow exercise?
You know, Frank, I'd love to give you great advice, but I think that really probably should work with your doctor a little more closely on this, because I don't want to make a recommendation that's not in line with his recommendation, since I don't know your case obviously as well as he does. Of course, good protein's great, but I think in terms of the exercise, you should really talk to him, and maybe he can refer you to someone who's kind of specialized in working with people with your particular situation.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, I have in 15 weeks dropped 55 pounds, so the products are very, very amazing, and I feel great, but no exercise whatsoever during this 15-week period.
Well, that's great. Sounds like you're on the right track, but again, I'd probably seek some real expert opinion, and I think they'll sort you out, and looking forward to seeing pictures of your six-pack abs on iChange.
Thank you. I will do that. Thank you very much.
Hey, Frank. Thanks, Frank. Next up, we have Billy Knowles. Billy, are you there?
Yeah, here, all the way from the UK. John, we met you at Lord's Cricket Ground, so thank you very much for doing that speech there.
Ah, fantastic.
You mentioned thanks. You mentioned the high-intensity training before, and is that just cardio sort of work, or what about sort of lifting weights as well? What would you recommend on that sort of side of things?
Yeah, I referenced cardio work here, but if you're familiar with CrossFit, I mean, whenever you do, the workout of the day, or the WODs as they're called, and you're doing kettlebell swings and burpees and FT or for time workouts, those are great things that are really high intensity, and you're going to see really good results from those as well. I really like to mix kind of the moderate intensity and the high intensity workouts together. I find that's most effective, particularly for really performance athletes, but more casual athletes can benefit a lot from just doing 2 of those Tabatas a week, and they'll start to see really good results. But you're right. Your question is that, do you have to do cardio only? No, you can integrate weights and CrossFit type activities to do high intensity stuff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Cheers.
Thanks, Billy. It looks like we have next is a call from Portugal, Jose Rodriguez. Jose, are you there?
Hello, Jose.
Are you there, Jose? All right. If we missed you, go ahead and dial *1 again, Jose, and we'll get you back in the queue. Linda Sikar. Linda, are you there?
Hey.
Hey, Linda. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. I had a question for you, Doctor. As far as doing water exercise, such as water aerobics and swimming laps, do you consider any of that weight bearing at all if you're using weights in the pool?
It's not weight bearing in the classic sense, because you are pretty buoyant in the water, so it's really low impact. So I know people that have maybe are trying to look to build bone density and things like that, but I don't know how effective it is, so I'm not quite sure on that. But I know that it's often a recovery tool for pro athletes. Is they get them in the pool to remove some of the weight-bearing impact, so they can start to do running and things like that. So my guess is it's not so weight-bearing, but it's still great physical activity.
Okay, and then the other question that goes with that is, would the rebuild strength be the best shake after any type of water aerobics or lap swimming?
Yeah, I would. And this is a question that I think everyone can kind of benefit from, but I almost always recommend rebuild strength to everybody. I see it as sort of the default recovery shake option because it's got a balance of carbs and protein. I really like to save rebuild endurance the people that are doing kind of pretty high intensity or long endurance events. Like you're cycling for 4 hours, maybe you're swimming 10,000 meters or something. You know, if you're doing really intense stuff. But for most people, rebuild strength is the way to go.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Next we have She Pritz. She, are you on the phone?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, She, we're here.
How are you?
Great.
So I'm a CrossFitter, lost with the Herbalife product 65 pounds, and doing CrossFit together. I CrossFit 7 days a week, and I wanted to ask a few questions. The first question is, do I need to have a minimal time of wait period between the rebuild strength?
Between rebuild strength and, I'm sorry, what else?
Between the rebuild strength, because there's days we do twice a day workout, so I just, after every workout, I take a rebuild strength. Is there a time here?
I think that's fine. I think keep doing what you're doing. That's fine.
No problem. The next option is in order to build muscle mass, should I drink the rebuild strength also in addition before I go to sleep?
You know, for pre-sleep, I really like people using the personalized protein powder, actually, because that's really pure protein, and I think that actually works really well and it's digested a little bit more slowly than the rebuild strength, so it lasts a little longer at night. If you're hungry going to bed, then go rebuild strength. But if you're not craving carbs, you're not hungry, I would try to make something with maybe even a little bit of beverage mix and the personalized protein powder together. Those work really well.
And, well, I'm not hungry, just trying to build more muscle mass. And the last question is, you know, we've been taught always, you know, in order to keep your metabolism high, to eat usually every 2 hours. So I've been keeping that, and I'm actually forcing myself, even when I'm not hungry, to eat every 2 hours. But according to what you just told us, that's hurting my fat burning process.
Well, it really depends on what you eat, right? So you can eat food like lentils aren't really going to spike insulin. They're not going to spike blood sugar. So they have a minimal effect on fat metabolism. I'm trying to get people to avoid eating, you know, a cupcake every time they're hungry because that just spikes blood sugar and it really shuts down metabolism. You're eating.
I eat red meats and eggs, white eggs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more in line with what I'd recommend. I probably wouldn't recommend forcing yourself to eat, though, you know, unless you're doing just massive workouts where it's just you're in a huge calorie deficit. But I think take some cues from your body and maybe moderate the eating a little bit and make sure you're getting enough carbohydrates in so that you're not metabolizing muscle. And so, and this is for everybody, is that the major fuel people use during exercise, particularly once they start exercising at intensity, is carbohydrate. And if you're lacking carbohydrates, you can't burn fat, so your body turns to eat its own muscle, which is why a lot of CrossFit guys in particular, they're so scared of carbohydrates. They eat all this protein, but that's really just getting converted into energy their body can use. So they're either going to eat that steak or they're going to eat their own muscle. So it's actually okay to add some carbohydrates, particularly in the morning and at lunch. Just keep the carbohydrates to a minimum at dinner time.
And before workout, should I take anything? Should I drink hydrate, or should I just go on fasting, like right after sleep?
If you work out and it's really early in the morning, you could go fasting. I really like Prepare, the pre-workout product. I even have a lot of CrossFit guys drinking Rebuild Endurance kind of before and during the exercise. It's got some good carbs, but it's also got about twice as much protein as Prolong. So they're kind of getting both nutrients in for CrossFit workouts.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Great, thanks. All right. Next we have Jackie Peterson. Jackie, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for taking my call. My question, when I work out, sometimes particularly if I am doing a more intense one, I'm starting to work out with a trainer. And when I come home, I often feel like I'm starving and I'm craving, that probably, not that I'm doing it, but I'm craving foods that I know are not something that I should be heading towards. I'll defeat my purpose. So what do you recommend after a workout? And I'm 67 years old, so when we're talking intense for me, we're talking a whole different world than for a lot of young people. But I am concerned about what should I be doing when I finish a workout to take away that hunger that's a positive for what I'm trying to accomplish.
Right. So, Jackie, this is a fantastic question. I think it applies to everybody. First, congratulations on being hungry, because it's actually a good sign that your body's metabolism is responding to workouts. And that means you're actually doing good things for your body. So what I would really recommend is eating a lot after a workout, because after the workout is when your body's ability to build muscle and burn fat are really elevated. So you kind of want to feed it protein, feed it carbohydrates actually, because the carbohydrates you eat in that window after exercise, it's actually not so impactful on the fat burning. Remember, the fat burning occurs later in the day. So after your workout is the time to eat carbohydrates, not right before you go to bed and dinner and eat pasta and ice cream. That's the worst time. So what I would recommend is, if you haven't tried the Herbalife 24 products, I would make a Rebuild Strength shake, maybe make it with milk, throw some frozen fruit in there. And if you're still hungry with that, maybe add an extra scoop or start adding in some Rebuild Endurance.
Okay.
For those of you that are already making a recovery shake, maybe it's not quite enough. I know for myself, if I do a big ride, this morning, for example, I actually made 2 recovery shakes pretty much back to back, because I had the first one, a shower, it's like 45 minutes later, I was still hungry. Instead of, reaching for something unhealthy, like you said, I just made another recovery shake, and I knew I'm getting good nutrients there. So you can kind of listen to your body, and if you need more, add more right away afterwards, so you're not forced to eat that Snickers bar in the afternoon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. So we're starting to run out of time, so we're going to take 4 more questions. Next in the queue we have Heather, Jose, Julie, and Ralph. So we'll get through those, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up after that, John, if that's okay.
No problem.
All right. So first, let's take a call from Heather. Heather, are you there? Heather Santo.
Hi there. How are you both?
Hey, Heather. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Heather.
Good. Thank you for taking my call. I've actually had a question about the units. I'm doing the Herbalife 24 Fit DVDs. I'm actually going to be entering into Phase 3, and I wondered how many units would you think that those videos quantify to? Am I doing enough to really burn fat? Should I go higher to hit 30? I didn't know where they fit.
Yeah, great question. I would say those are probably on like a 5 to 6 units per hour. Somewhere in that range. Of course, I think more is better. So, I don't know what your baseline is, but, think about, I think going into Phase 3 is great. I think you're going to probably get enough intensity, and kind of weigh yourself, and you can kind of track that. What that term, those units, I didn't make those up. They're actually called metabolic efficiency units. So you can look up, it's called an MET score for metabolic efficiency. And you can look up on Wikipedia, for example, and it gives you kind of all kinds of different examples. I just pulled out a couple to kind of make it simple for the talk.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to Julie Hansen. Julie, are you in the line?
I am. Hi, guys. How are you today?
Great. Thanks, Julie.
Good. So another question about 24 Fit, because I'm in Phase 3. I'm actually in the last 4 weeks of Phase 3. And haven't noticed a whole lot of weight loss. And I've been doing 2 power shakes a day, making them with 1 scoop of Formula 1, 3 scoops of PDM, about 4 ounces of milk, and the rest with water and ice. Occasionally I'll throw in a couple of tablespoons of cream cheese and some fruit. So do I need to up my protein even more, or am I just doing it incorrectly?
I think for a lot of people, if you're doing the beginner phase of the 24 Fit, I think it's sort of slow results, right? What you're doing is you're working a lot of the minor muscles. You're not working the biceps. You're not going to get big biceps. And remember, you're basically burning that core fat inside your body, that visceral fat, and you tend not to see results from that very quickly, right? So maybe what I would recommend is if you've done the beginning session 1 through 3, which congratulations on almost finishing that. That's fantastic. But I would go back and do the intermediate section back on level 1 and then continue through the series. Or you can start adding in things. Maybe pick a local 5K in your community and maybe do some more running and train for that. So now you've got a good foundation of some of the core muscles. You can look to kind of venture out a little bit. But again, I think doing some activity is going to do a lot of good for you.
Okay, because I'm also walking in the evenings for 20 to 30 minutes, and then at least 2 days a week I'm figure skating for about an hour.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. I mean, maybe on the days you walk, as I recommended to somebody else, I think you could try walking for 5 minutes, kind of doing an easy jog for 2 minutes, walk for 5, kind of alternate like that. I know it's a great strategy. A lot of people used to kind of get used to running. It also adds a little bit more weight-bearing exercise, which is really good for bone density as well.
Okay. Okay, but that's the protein. You're talking a gram per pound of body weight.
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the upper end. You know, most people don't need quite that much, but that's kind of, you know, a high target. So if you're at 0.8, that's a great number.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thanks, Julie. All right, let's go to Ralph Wickenmeyer from Germany. Ralph, are you on the line?
Yeah, hi guys. You're doing a great job there. I have a question concerning the amount of protein per meal. How much can the body digest during one meal? And what amount of protein do you recommend, Dr. John?
So that's a good question. It comes up a lot, and there's few studies have actually looked at how much you can digest. But it looks like the range per meal, I like to shoot between 20 to 30 grams per meal. So if you have a snack, maybe it's 20 grams a meal, maybe it's 30 grams. So Rebuild Strength in Germany, it's got 25 grams of protein. You know, if you add milk to that, you're definitely in the 30 range. I think much more than that, you can't utilize it as effectively. So you probably end up wasting a lot of protein.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. That's what I want to know.
All right.
Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph. All right, let's go to just two more here. Let's go to Dwight Washington. Dwight, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Dr. John, for this call today. I just had a question. We do a fit camp in the evening. This might be a repeat question, but if the person's on a weight loss program and after the fit camp, they go home and do a shake, Rebuild Strength, and they haven't had their dinner, and later on they want dinner, is that Rebuild Shake considered a meal? Does that constitute a meal?
Right. So, yeah, so Rebuild Strength, it's not considered a meal. And even if it was, I would recommend them to have Rebuild Strength. Maybe they go home and shower and then have a second meal. Maybe get some good vegetables in, some spinach, some kale, some tomatoes, whatever it is, vegetable-wise, and then have some more protein, whether it's fish or chicken. And they could even add a little bit of carbohydrates at dinner if they need. But I try to avoid things like white rice and pastas. And usually when I eat carbohydrates, it's things like lentils or yams or beans or even vegetable carbohydrates. I find that when I get the fiber and the protein together with some carbs, it works really well. So the key there to remember is that the Rebuild Strength is going to really maximize that workout, but they still need to eat, I think, a good meal before dinner time.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dwight.
Great. Well, listen, let's go ahead and start to wrap this up here. By the way, thank you for all of the questions. I mean, it's really interesting for us to hear what questions you have, and I know it helps John to direct the information that we share. So terrific job. Just to close out, let me just chat briefly again about some of the benefits of iChange. And for those of you that haven't tried it, I recommend very strongly go to iChange.com and sign up. If you're an Herbalife distributor, and you can see my screen, it's the green coach registration button. Know that iChange is completely free. It's free for you. and it's free for those clients that you sign up to the site. And kind of tying this back to the things we were talking about today, iChange is a great way for you and for your clients to track the nutrition that they consume every day, including the Herbalife products, so they can see what their nutritional balance looks like, what their caloric intake is, and most importantly, on the topic of today's conversation, you can track your exercise. And in fact, iChange has a couple really cool features. Let me see if I've got it here. Jennifer, can you hand me my Fitbit? So I don't know if many of you on the phone have started doing this yet, but there's a lot of really cool iPhone applications and even devices. So what I'm holding up to the screen right now, if you can see it, is a little clip that I put on my pants every day, and it tracks my exercise. It tracks how many steps I take. It tracks how active I am during the day. It tracks how many stairs that I climb. And what's cool about it is it automatically updates my iChange account. So my Herbalife wellness coach, my distributor, my friends see it. It allows me to track how I'm doing, and I get lots of encouragement and support. So if you're looking for support for the exercise you're doing, you can get something like a Fitbit, or you can enter it right into iChange.com. You'll get this great community of people behind you, and it's really a great thing for your clients that are trying to increase their fitness and improve their health with Herbalife. So iChange is available in all European countries right now, U.S., Canada, and will soon be available in other countries around the world. The site right now is available in English and Spanish, and very soon with our Brazilian launch, we'll be introducing it in Portuguese as well. So John, that's it. Really appreciate all the information that you provided. Hey, operator, maybe one final time, can you open up the line so we can all give a big thank you to John?
And we had a great body of calls and questions, so thanks everybody for calling in.
Operator, if you could open the line just briefly, let's get a big thank you for Dr. John.
One moment.
Thank you.
A cheering session.
Let's hear it.
Yeah!
All right, are we on? Okay, let's hear it. How was it?
Go!
Thank you, Dr. John. Awesome.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. With that, we will wrap up our call.
Great,
John,
thank
you very much.
All right,
it was terrific. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for